Okay, in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to make an object game controller. I've already made one, but I'll make it again. So previously, just to update where we were at, we made a background. So I used any paint program, just quickly put together a background, make sure I include the title and who made it. Then the next thing I did is I made an object called object start. And object start is very simple. One event, add event keyboard, any key, go to the next room. Pretty simple. Then I made my room. I go to backgrounds. I put the background that I drew. And I go to objects. And I only put one object so far, which is object start. Notice it doesn't have a sprite. And typically, when I have objects that don't have sprites, I put them in the top left corner just as a habit. So I know to look here if something's not working, if I forgot to add it or whatever have you. Okay, now I'm going to make a game controller. And why would I want a game controller? What's the purpose of a game controller? Well, the game controller is going to keep track of all sorts of things. The lives, the health, the score, possibly even some variables and values. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make a game controller object that's going to really, the purpose is to keep track of the lives and score. So I create a new object. I call it object game controller. And I don't need to put a sprite. But there's one thing that's going to be unique here with game controller, and that is the persistent. So let me show you what persistent is. And so you'll see here, there is a checkbox for persistent. We haven't used it yet in any of our programs. What persistent means is if I put a check mark here for persistent, when I make it in and put it in room start, it's going to exist everywhere else. And so it will exist in all these other rooms. And that's going to be really important. Let me show you why. So I go to persistent, and one of the things that I'm going to do is when the game controller is created, I'm going to make some lives. So in the start room, I'm going to go to lives, and we're going to have 3 lives, let's say. Okay. So that's fine. But in room 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, I might lose a life because I might hit an enemy or whatever happens. And so there's a special event here under other called no more lives. And so I don't have to have this object created in all the rooms because it's persistent. And so it's going to exist and it's going to always be scanning for no more lives. And if there's no more lives, we display the high scoreboard. And we're going to then restart the game. So, again, let me just back up and just reiterate why it's so important. In the create event, I set lives to 3. If I put that in each and every room, it would be a pain. I'd have to keep putting this object in every room to see if I'm out of lives. But even more of an error is that the create event would trigger in every room and you'd always have 3 lives. Because it's persistent, the create event setting the lives to 3 is only going to exist where I create it, which is going to be in this room here. I'm going to drag in just a second and I'm going to put it in this room. Let me just show you. So I'm going to go to the start room and I'm going to put the game controller and say, let's create this game controller in this room. So I've got a game controller and I've got the start object in here. Okay, so those are both created in here. The game controller, though, is going to be created in room start, but it's going to exist in all of the rooms. So all of these rooms, it's going to exist. And so it's always going to be able to check for lives. Finally, the last thing I want to do, and let me just show you one of the rooms, is at the bottom of the room, I purposely created a blank area here where I can put some information. This is like my scoreboard. And so one of the things I want to do is I want to put the score and how many points, and then I'm going to put how many lives I have. So let's do that next. So the game controller has another event called draw. And the only way we can draw text and data like that on the screen is using this special feature called draw. And you'll notice another thing that happens is anything that you can draw. So for example, I can draw a variable and you'll see it's yellow. So anything that's yellow means it can be drawn. So if I had a variable called x, for example, is a variable we have, I could actually draw the value of x if I wanted a little thing that's going to keep updating with where my x position is. That's not what I want, though. So let's take a look at what I want to draw. So a couple things I want to draw. One of the things I could draw is sometimes I might want to draw some text. And you'll notice it's yellow. So all these things here are yellow, are things that I can draw. But more important, getting back to the score, I said I wanted to draw the score. So one of the actions for draw I'm going to put is draw score. And again, I'm not going to set the score, but I'm going to draw the score. So I put draw score. And where do I want to draw the score? Well, I want it at the bottom here, so maybe I'll put it a little bit along, maybe at 64 pixels across. And the Y position, well, if my room is 480 pixels, so from here all the way to here is 480, I want it to be a little bit less than 480. I want it to be minus about 32 less because my sprite is 32 characters. So I'm going to draw it at about 450 pixels down. Let's say 452. The last thing is I can put a caption. You don't have to. I can leave it blank. But it is a score, so I'm going to write the text SCORE. But I could write, game score, whatever I want to write in. But score, I think, is perfect. Next, what I want to do is I want to draw how many lives I have. And there's two different options. Here, I can draw lives. And if I draw lives here, you can have a caption, and it'll draw the variable called lives, which I set to 3, so it'll start off being 3. Or what I could do is, this one here is quite interesting. It can draw life as an image. So I'm going to use that one just to show you. And what image do I want to use? I'm going to use a person sprite. So because my lives is 3, it's going to draw 3 people. What position do I want to put it? And again, you're just going to have to play around. I'm going to say, let's put it at position 200x, so that's 200 pixels, so kind of about a third the way across. And then I think 452 was what I put for Y, so it'll be at the very bottom. And again, that should fit perfectly with my room. It should draw here. So when I press play, I'm going to run the program. And you'll see, here's my maze game. And notice it drew it right in the bottom here. But I'll go to the first room, and you'll see it looks pretty good. But I think I'm going to actually move these up a little. The other thing I'm going to do is I don't want the start screen to draw. I don't want to see the lives here. So a couple things I'm going to do different here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back here to the draw event. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to test to see if I'm not on the first room. So if I'm not on the first room, what I want to do is I want to do the drawing. Okay, so as long as there's a room before it, do the drawing. And again, I can't remember if I wanted to move this up. I think I did. Say 450. I think that's what I wanted to do. Move those up a bit. Great, and now when I press play, you'll see it should be in a good spot at the bottom. And it'll let's hit any key, and there you go. So that's pretty good. Perfect. And there you have it. So that's the game controller.